Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome to our Hot Sheet Live Special Edition Part 10. Can't believe it. How major industries adapt to COVID-19 recovery. We're going to have an exciting conversation today, and we're going to get started at 9:30. Just wanted to come in to say welcome and that we're getting started because we know that some of you are out there, but just some housekeeping kind of things. We are going to have a jam-packed hour. You don't want to miss a thing. So go get your coffee, get out of that refrigerator. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. How about some Bloody Marys? We're going to start at 9:30. See you in a few, but again, you're in the right place. We're talking today about how major industries adapt to COVID-19 recovery, specifically the air travel, transportation, the hospitality industry, and the gaming industry. So be back in a minute. Thanks. Good morning. I am Sharon Pinder, President and CEO of the Capital Region Minority Supply Development Council. Thank you again for joining us for today's conversation. This is the Business Consortium's Hot Sheet Live, Where is the Money? And the conversation today is how major industries adapt to COVID-19 recovery. So if you think that you have a lot going on, I'm sure that you do. There is a lot that we can learn from these industry leaders, these industry titans, about how COVID impacted those industries, and as leaders within those industries, the kind of decisions they've had to make and what's on the horizon of the things that they have to do. But before we get started, let me just take care of a couple of things. I want to specifically thank some folks. I want to thank Erica Gibson, the Director of Supply Diversity and Hilton Supply Management, for her contributions today. Awesome young woman. And Shakira Garcia, who you'll see a little bit later, Eastern Supply Diversity and Community Relations Manager with Caesars Entertainment. I'd also like to thank the Board of Directors of the Capital Region Minority Supply Development Council. But I also want to tell you that this week is Med Week. What is Med Week? It's Minority Business Development Week, sponsored by the U.S. Department of Commerce. And that's happening this week. As you well know, that we have two MBDA centers. One is the MBDA Center, Washington, D.C., and the other that's directed by, has the director of Mr. Dennis Smith, and the other one is the Federal Procurement Center that's headed by Tommy Mark. So I want to say congratulations to them, because this week they will be recognized with the Century Award, and that is recognition of performance over and above their goals. So congratulations to them and their teams, including Ken Clark, Latoya Moore, Claudia Barrera, Jacob Brown, and Kalila Madison. And then, of course, the teams that make this kind of work: Sonia Bigelow Smith, who's our Director of Business Development; Nicole Miles, the best designer in the world; Latoya Moore, just invaluable. Just wanted to get that out of the way, because thanking folks is really, really important, because we don't do these things alone. But let's thank the folks that we've invited here today. But first, let's look at the agenda. When we look at the agenda, and I'd like to, at this point in time, kind of bring the people on that we're talking about. So guests, could you please join me on camera? Very good. Appreciate you. Appreciate you. So quickly, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to look at the agenda here. We have Linda Theisen from the Hilton. I'll talk about her in a moment. We're going to talk to our guests, have an up close and personal conversation, and give you the ability to ask questions as well. Look at the questionability within your on your devices, and you can start asking questions that you may have, and we will start addressing them. And so we also have, as we have advertised, because we have truth in advertising, we do, honest and truly, have Southwest tickets to give away. And then we're going to close this out by an open chat. So we'll talk to them individually and then close it out with the open chat. Let me introduce you to these folks on camera here. Ricky, if you can just give me a nod of the head, tap on the glasses or something. This is Ricky D. Smith. He is the Executive Director, Chief Executive Officer, CEO of the Baltimore Washington International Thurgood Marshall Airport. Mr. Smith is responsible for the management and operations of VWI Thurgood Marshall Airport, Martin State Airport, and regional aviation activities throughout the state of Maryland. I didn't know about that, Ricky, in terms of Martin State Airport. Ricky was appointed Executive Director and CEO of the Maryland Department of Transportation, Maryland Aviation Administration, MAA, on July the 10th, 2015, by Governor Larry Hogan. Prior to this role, Ricky served as Chief Executive Officer of the Cleveland Airport System, which includes Cleveland Hopkins International Airport and Burke Lakefront Airport. In addition, he was responsible for overseeing the development and management of the city's lakefront properties. Mr. Smith's experience as a transportation professional spans 30 years and includes many awards, to include the Congressional Achievement Award. I'm sure that was really special for you, Ricky, yes, given by the late Congressman Elijah Cummings. But I know Ricky also has an abundance of other awards and just scholar and a gentleman, and we're just so happy to have you here today. So we're going to talk to Ricky a little bit later. We also have Linda Theisen, the Vice President of Corporate Procurement for Hilton Corporation. Good morning, Linda. Linda joined Hilton Supply Management in July of 2018 and is a trusted advisor to supply partners. Prior to the Hilton, Linda was the VP of Indirect Procurement for Mattel, where she led the transformation of their indirect procurement function. Linda, where were you at Mattel? Where were you located?
Southern California.
Oh, okay. So you're now on the East Coast. Got you. She has a long history in the automotive sector, where she worked for Ford Motor Company, the global automotive supplier, and Fisker Automotive and Electric Vehicle Startup Company. Hope I got that right, Linda. She was named Automotive.
You did.
Okay, News Top 100 Women in Procurement, and has experience in direct procurement as well as corporate categories, including marketing, facilities, logistics, IT, HR, and professional services. So we certainly have the woman, the legend, and the myth with us here today, and that can give us plenty of information, but not to be ignored. We also have Randy Conroy, Senior Vice President and General Manager at Horseshoe Casino, Baltimore. Randall Conroy is, as I said, is Senior VP, but he began his gaming career at a tribal casino near Topeka, Kansas. Interesting. He has worked at Lake Tahoe in Nevada, Harrah's of Philadelphia, and at Harrah's Joliet in Chicagoland. Randy has over 18 years of experience in casino industry. So Randy, thank you for being here today.
Well, good morning, everybody. Yes, I don't know. I want to be where you're at. If you're doing Bloody Marys, I still just have coffee. So,
and you're in the casino. I know the bar is open.
It is open too. I don't know what's going on here, but anyway, good morning. Happy to be here and share this the strange world that we're all living in and how it relates to casinos.
And we're going to talk about that. But I want to bring on your partner in crime, one of your employees. Shakira, can you come on camera for just a moment? So I want people to know Shakira, Diversity and Community Relations Manager at Caesars Entertainment Corporation. She serves as the Supply Diversity and Community Relations Manager. And in this role, she is the client liaison and responsible for sales and management and contract management. And prior to this role, she has worked at the Washington Post as a single copy express zone manager, whatever that means, Shakira. We're glad that you are here. And Shakira also serves on our board of directors. And she has agreed today to be that gatekeeper of those Southwest airline tickets, and she'll join us later on in the conversation with that. While you all are still here, can I have the next slide, please, around also, because you always have to know where your bread is buttered, so I need to thank our sponsors, of which you guys are sponsors as well. Our title sponsor is Exelon, which includes BGE and Pepco, and then you'll see the other sponsors there on the screen. And we want to say thank you, because without that support and sponsorship, we could not do what we do. And we've been doing this since March, where we had to pivot as an organization and say, what is essential for the survivability and the sustainability of our minority businesses, and more importantly, as our corporate partners, that we can do in order to help during the world's most horrific pandemic in the history of the world. And so we're going to get into that conversation, but I just wanted to get that out of the way. And Linda, if you can stay on board, gentlemen, and Shakira, I'll see you just a little bit later, we can get started with our conversation. And I know that you, as the Vice President of Corporate Procurement, and all the experience that you've had, can you compare this pandemic or this experience with anything else in your career? Has anything come close?
Nothing comes close, Sharon. Nothing. And I thought I had been through a lot in my many years in the industry. The downturn of 2009, 2010, I've been through bankruptcies. Nothing at all compares to what we have all just gone through this year.
Yeah, and I would imagine, I mean, when you look at the hotel business, before COVID, you talk about, so as a global industry, it's a $525 billion industry. And worldwide, the industry itself employs over 2 million people. And so when the world comes to a halt, how does that impact the hospitality industry? Or how did it impact the Hilton?
Oh, absolutely devastating. And it was so quick. I mean, we saw it coming in Asia, but I don't think anybody anticipated what we've undergone this year, the past 7 months. Travel immediately came to a halt. And so without travel, people aren't staying in hotels. And, we had to be very concerned on the safety of our team members that were still working in the properties. But yeah, it's been devastating on our industry, and we're seeing it come back slowly, but it's been a year that no one anticipated and no one was prepared for.
Yeah, we had conversations, and Hilton has been a supporter of our council for many, many years. And we've had conversations in the past about the industry itself and where you were moving in terms of hotel rooms being much more fluid and personalized and customized to the customer, and just some really wonderful things. What happens to those plans? So what has happened over the last 5 months or so in terms of you personally and the industry, and what, as the VP of Corporate Procurement, what have you had to do or put in place?
Sure. And I'll just start on the personal front. Just like all of you, I mean, my first concern is my family. My elderly parents, is everybody safe and is going to be okay? And then it's my team members, and making sure everyone was okay, their families were okay. So on a personal front, just making sure everybody's safe. Obviously, personal vacations and things, weddings we were looking forward to were canceled. In the scheme of things, we'll get through it, and we look forward to the day we can resume all of those activities. But on the business front, first and foremost, we had to make sure all of our team members were able to work remotely. Luckily, we all had connectivity, but there was some learning how to do the WebEx and the team meetings, get everybody comfortable working remote. For our operations, we had to, and from a procurement organization, Hilton Supply Management, we had to immediately, like most other companies did, find a supply of protective equipment, mainly hand sanitizers and masks. As everyone knows, it was in short supply, and we were doing whatever we could to make sure that we had a supply of that. We also had to quickly pivot and start mitigating costs. I mean, when your hotel is suspended their operations, we had to do everything we could to help them renegotiate contracts, get services turned off that were no longer needed. We worked with our suppliers on extended payment terms. We worked with them on providing temporary relief. And it's been really great to see how everyone rallied together, because it was impacting everybody. And our phone calls, our emails were all answered. We worked collaboratively with our supply partners, and we were able to provide millions of dollars of relief to our corporate entity as well as to our owners of the property. So that was a big pivot early on during COVID. And then we had to start thinking about, travel is going to return, and how do we make our customers feel comfortable coming back into the properties? And so we immediately thought, well, what does that return to travel look like? We partnered with two major brands, the Mayo Clinic and Lysol, and we launched Hilton Clean Stay, because we want you as our customer to know that when you come into our properties, it's been cleaned to the utmost guidelines. There's all the peripherals in the room as much as possible. We decluttered, so there was less that people could touch. We have a protective sleeve on the remote, and most importantly, your room is sealed. Once it's cleaned to the protocols, there's a Clean Stay seal that's affixed to the door, so when you open it and you break that seal, you're the first one that's in there since that room was cleaned. So in all of that, from concept to execution, was 2.5 months.
Wow. So
like everyone, you have to move at lightning speed, super focused, and it's a cross-functional effort across all of Hilton. For HSM, Clean Stay was 8 supply partners that we worked with, 120 innovative products, and we also have a ordering site, and we had over 10,000 hits on this ordering site from our properties that wanted to understand Clean Stay, get the products ordered that they will need as their properties begin to reopen.
So, and a lot has happened in those months that you were talking about. So, as a business owner, where are the opportunities that you see currently and perhaps in the future? And the second part of that, if you were a business owner currently engaged with the Hilton, what advice would you give to those MBEs as well?
Yes. Our focus and our commitment to our supplier diversity program remains stronger than ever. Obviously, our spend is going to be greatly reduced, but we fully expect that to come back. We are still actively including and looking for diverse supply partners across our entire portfolio. And if you think about a company like Hilton, our breadth of categories that from our corporate to our properties, there isn't much that we don't touch and that we don't procure in some manner. We are doing innovative things to make sure that we highlight diverse suppliers. We are making sure that every RFP, every request for a proposal that goes out includes a diverse supplier where applicable. And we have just such great support across the company. This isn't just a supplier diversity group within Hilton. We have advocates and mentors across all of our business units that are obviously going to help, and they have to help us make our program and our diverse suppliers successful.
Great. This is what we'd like to do. I'd like to take a couple of questions, And then after this segment, I'd ask if you can come back at the end where we can ask some more.
Certainly.
Okay. We have Sonia Bigelow-Smith, Director of Business Development, and Ken Clark, who is with our MBDA Business Center, Washington, D.C., as our question. They're asking the questions. Folks, can we have just 2 questions for Linda?
Yes, good morning. And thank you, Sharon, and thank you, Linda, for your opening this morning. Everyone, if you have any questions, please input your questions in the question box, and we will get to as many of those as we possibly can. These questions will be posted on our website afterwards. Linda, some questions that are coming in as a leader in your organization. At the peak of, and people want to know, at the peak of the shutdown, what was the single most important decision that you had to make? And is there one decision that you would have changed or done differently?
Gosh, I mean, the hardest decision is always when it affects team members.
Mm-hmm.
And we, like many companies, put a significant portion of our staff on furlough. And that's the most difficult decision. It'll never be easy because they're your family. And that was the most difficult thing, at least personally for me, and I know as a company, for us to do. Would I like to have more time to talk to people and give them a heads up? Yes, it just didn't allow for it. We were moving so quickly, and we really needed to shore up the business and make sure that, you know, the business stayed intact. But that was the most difficult thing. And it's that uncertainty and not being able to, as a leader, you want to have answers. And you want to say, oh, we do this, and at this point, things will get better, and we'll all, you know, bring you back from furlough. And it's just been such an uncertain time that we've just had to communicate as best we can. We have, and one of the biggest learnings personally as a leader was allowing each other grace to, you know, because you don't know what people are dealing with in their personal life. They're working remote, they're dealing with children, dealing with whatever in their personal circumstance. And you just have to allow them grace to, maybe they weren't at the top of their game on a certain call or a meeting. You just have to allow them time, and just know we're all dealing with a lot, and we're all doing the best we can.
Thank you. One more question.
Hi, Linda. This is Ken Clark. Understand that 60% occupancy is the target for profitability in hotels, and this past season has really, I'm sure, is well below that. What do your internal forecasters say about the future? When, you know, will hotels get back to that level? What's the impact on the corporation as a whole, and what's the impact on your owners? And how long do you think it will last in your industry?
Yeah, tough to predict. We are seeing positive occupancy rates. We were just on a leadership call. Europe is, you know, upper 30%. We have seen spikes over 50%. Usually they are around a holiday weekend, but that's all positive. The area that I think is going to be the longest to come back is the meeting and events, those large scale conferences. I mean, that's a significant portion of our business, and we don't see that, you know, coming back until probably mid to later next year, if that. I think there's going to be, and we're preparing for some sort of hybrid where you have in-person and remote, because I don't know when we're all going to be comfortable being in a large group. But you know, I don't have the crystal ball to say when, because there's so many variables. You know, are we going to have a resurgence of the virus? Is there going to be a vaccine? There's so many things that are going to give people that added confidence to resume travel, both leisure and business. But we are seeing good signs. The majority of our properties have reopened. They're not, to your point, at the occupancy that we'd like, but you know, we're hoping as time goes on and as, you know, we get a better handle on the virus, that we'll continue to see those occupancy rates go up.
Thank you, Linda. And we'll come back to continue the conversation at the end, because you're absolutely right. None of us have that crystal ball. But we know that our businesses would like to understand to the extent that's possible, if there's anything that they can do to find out what's going on. So we'll continue our conversation in just a moment. But thank you again for being here. And
You're
see you.
welcome.
Okay. Our next guest, we went from the hotel, so now we're going to gamble a little bit, right, Randy? And what an industry. So when you think about the casino industry, you think about the big players. I mean, Horseshoe being a part of Caesars Entertainment, and you think about when Vegas has its lights out. I just can't imagine. And so when the president declared an emergency in March, Randy, as the general manager of Horseshoe Casino and other properties, what went through your mind? What did you have to? How did you pivot, becoming the key word these days, right? In order to accommodate what was coming at you from an industry perspective, then you had to deal with local politics relative to what was mandated to you from a state perspective and a city perspective. I would imagine that may have caused some little sleepless nights.
A few. That's right. Yeah, a couple interesting stories, Sharon. First of all, Caesar's Palace, which is our flagship property for Caesars Entertainment, it closed for the first time in its existence of over 50 years. And so we needed to lock the doors, right? And no one knew where the keys were because it never been locked in its 50-year existence. So we had to rekey the doors in Las Vegas. So it was just a crazy time. We called it the tsunami effect, in that, once a couple casinos started, or jurisdictions and states closed casinos, it seemed like everybody else wanted to jump on board for fear of the unknown. And you could see it across the country, just the closures. And we had, at that time, 54 properties that closed within all of 2 weeks. Here at the Horseshoe, Governor Hogan had given us the heads up that, hey, this doesn't look good. And we were working with our regulators, their Maryland Lottery, to come up with some changes in the way we did our business in anticipation of COVID impacting us. So in the last week, all the casinos got together and had voluntarily, gone down in occupancy, shutting slot machines off. And then on Sunday night, we were given basically an 18-hour heads up. You're getting shut down Sunday at midnight. So we are prepared. We certainly have emergency plans for all kinds of strange things, and we can shut our casinos down very quickly. Basically, kick everybody out, get all the money out of the casino, and lock the doors. Starting the casino up again has been extremely challenging. Something I'm very happy to have gone through. Being closed is no fun, but it was very challenging to reopen the casino and get everybody back in place.
Because you have the function of the casinos, but you also have the restaurants. You had just opened you just opened a new restaurant in recent years that was out of DC. My mind, it just escapes
Ben's
me. But
Chili Bowl. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, Ben's Chili Bowl. Baltimore City Mayor Young and I, we were cutting the ribbons with the Ali family out of DC. And about 3 days later, we shut the whole place down. So
Right.
it was a great celebration. And, at that time, no one had a mask on. There wasn't a thought of social distancing. And looking back, I'm just aghast because obviously the virus was around, but that's the way it was.
I know, by the grace of God, I was at that ribbon cutting. So I remember, I remember that ribbon cutting and all the things that Horseshoe represented, or represents rather, for the city of Baltimore and surrounding areas. Highly competitive. And so how do you recover from that, the impact to your revenues and the impact to your customer base?
Yeah, well, similar to Linda, we are a very labor-intense business that we can't really work from home very well. We need dealers to deal cards. We need people to cook meals. So we furloughed the vast majority of our team. We offered them a couple weeks of extra pay to start with, and then we extended their benefits throughout. But it was very challenging. I would say, we typically have around 1,400 employees here at the casino, and we were down to 50. And in some days, I was the only person in the building. So walking around a casino with all of the power turned off and not a soul in the building, aside from our security team at the front door, was a daunting experience. But we got through it. So, my call to my team, even those that were on furlough, is we're a day closer to reopening. We don't know when that is yet, but when we do, we're going to be ready. So Caesars Entertainment hired a team of epidemiologists that works directly with the CDC on putting measures in place for health and safety, just to create a more comfortable environment for our team and our customers. And so we've worked on that right from the outset. And that has changed significantly as we learn more about the virus and how to work within the confines of it. We continue to evolve our health and safety protocols up until, every week we're tweaking something that we've learned maybe in Arizona or in New Orleans, and then we apply it throughout the company.
That's very, very interesting. You talked about the workforce. And in terms of Caesars Entertainment, Horseshoe Casino has been a very good steward of its use of minority businesses. And so what can we tell folks relative to, and we understand there's no crystal ball. And you mentioned earlier that you've seen the level of participation up because of the pent-up frustration. Can you talk about that just a little bit? People are coming to the casinos because they're tired of being in the house, and it's something to do. We can get away from our significant others and have a good time. But tell us about this. Were you seeing from a business perspective an uptick during COVID?
It's been extremely strange and unexpected. So when we were forecasting during the closure, what kind of business we're going to have when we reopen, we were expecting around 30 or 40% of our business to come back in the first 90 days. And then as people felt more comfortable getting out, we would see it ramp up slowly throughout the year. That was our best guess at the time. And we were not anywhere close to being correct. So the day we reopened, and since then, our slot business, and again, we only have, of our 2,100 machines in the building, we only have half of them turned on to promulgate social distancing and give some space to people. But our slot revenues from a year-on-year perspective are actually higher this year than last year. So it makes no sense, but I think the obvious answer is you're right. People are excited to get out, and there's not a lot of other entertainment offerings right now. For M&T Stadium on Sunday, typically we would have thousands of people in our garage and packed and everything, but nothing here. So we're seeing some good business, more business than we had thought from the outset. But as far as a couple recommendations for this group, I think two things. First of all, in front of you is Shakira Garcia's contact information. Certainly reach out to Shakira if you haven't already. I think that coming out of and reopening, we've had some interesting new channels of business, as Linda mentioned, a lot of PPE, and we've been able to procure most of our PPE from diverse vendors, which has been a good opportunity for folks. But in general, you need to reach out to Shakira to start that pipeline. Now, working with casinos is not necessarily easy. We're highly regulated, so there's a lot of hoops to go through, but nonetheless, there's a great opportunity. And once you get in with, say, the Horseshoe Baltimore, you're then tied into the rest of our brands at Caesars Entertainment. So that could mean business up in Philadelphia, Atlantic City, and actually through the closure, we just announced that we're building a brand new casino in Danville, Virginia. So, if you can get in with one of our properties, then we try to use you throughout the brand. And if you have that capabilities, then you can take advantage of that. The second thing I would just consider, Sharon, is, we have needed to be extremely flexible in our business. And the way we do our business, our strategy has changed post reopening. It used to be that we would compete with our competition in Maryland based on giving you a better offer or a different experience. Now, the primary reason why people come to the Horseshoe and not the competition is because they feel more comfortable here. We've taken a very aggressive approach on health and safety. So that has changed our business. So we don't need to do as much of the marketing side. We need to spend more time on the health and safety. So I think it's just a change in our business. We have had to be and continue to be extremely flexible. Mayor Young in Baltimore City has the authority to impose more restrictions than Governor Hogan has put on the casino industry by allowing local jurisdictions to have that flexibility. And so we've had the rules have changed week over week, month over month, and that's okay. You just need to be very flexible in how you run your business, and honestly rethink on why you do the things you do. That's something I tell my team every day. Why are we doing it? We don't want to go back to the way we were doing things just because that feels comfortable. You should do things now because there's new opportunities available to you that you didn't have before.
Excellent, excellent. Randy, I'm going to open it up to a couple of questions and from the audience, and then we'll ask you to come back when we do another chat as well. Any questions on
Yes, Randy. Yes, Randy, great segue. There's a question that came in that asks, are you, as an organization, are you considering any new technology solutions to assist with health and safety and/or operations? And are you open as an organization to piloting new solutions?
Yes, on both fronts. So some of the technology changes, we temperature check all customers and all team members every day. So getting used to that, that's been easy for everybody. We are exploring cashless technology throughout the casino. And it's something the industry was moving towards, although slowly. And now with COVID, it is fast-paced. So we would just prefer to never deal with cash in our business. And it's mostly, right now, a cash business. So, working off mobile payment devices. We are converting our food and beverage outlets in the next month or two to 100% cashless. So that's been really interesting. It's just a new way we do our business. As far as the future, absolutely, we want to use technology more and more. One example of that, we typically will, as an incentive for people to come in, we'll give people, say, gift cards, Best Buy gift cards, Walmart gift cards, whatever it might be, and hoping that you'll come in, get your gift card, and then do some gambling, right? We used to have long lines of people lining up for their gift cards, and it might take 20 minutes to actually go through the queue and get your gift card. We now don't do any of that. It's all digital, and we have kiosks throughout the building, and swipe your player's card, and then we digitally send you the gift card automatically. And in fact, we offer you more choices than you had before. So we will never go back to the old system. It's not a good system. It's less efficient, and it doesn't provide the customers much choice. So we will continue to look for technology to just change the way we do our business.
Randy, what you just spoke about, did you just put that in place in the last 6 months?
We did.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
and the question regarding piloting, this is a great property. I've been at 6 different properties in my career. This property, because of the very forward-looking and cooperative regulatory environment with the Maryland Lottery, we are actually able to pilot things before any other state in the country. And so we have the luxury of doing some cool things here at the Horseshoe Baltimore, and we'll continue to. Where we just renovated for $1 million our loyalty program area, our Caesars Rewards area, and we're a pilot now for the entire company. And it's trying to become more of a Apple Store-esque type experience, as opposed to just long lines of people waiting to get their loyalty card. So we do more, and I love it. It gives us the flexibility to try things. Not all of them work, and that's okay. We're open to giving things a shot. We can do that very, very well in Maryland.
Thank you for being open. Can we have one more question?
Yes. You've been what you just talked about, very exciting about all the new technology and how you're using it. Are there any products or services that are of urgent need right now that minority businesses can seek to fulfill for you.
Yep, I think that certainly the PPE is a huge piece of our business. As Linda pointed out, before closure, we were all scrambling for hand sanitizer and just all that masks and everything. We continue to, that's what I talk to my folks every week, to make sure that our supply chain is strong. So I think that's interesting. On the horizon as an emerging opportunity for next year, I think, would be sports betting. So sports betting is on the ballot in November. Will you authorize sports betting? And then if it passes, the legislature has to pass enabling legislation in the spring. That's a huge opportunity for to just a new channel of business. I think there's certainly be strong minority participation in that channel of business. There'll be construction that goes along with it. We're planning a couple $1 million sports book at our property in anticipation of passage. And there's just going to be a lot of new opportunities for us. What that will do is create some tax revenues for primarily for education in the state, but also pull people into the casinos again that maybe otherwise weren't. And, maybe while they're making their bet on the Ravens next year, likely, they'll play some blackjack and pull some, push some buttons on the slot machines. So that's an exciting new business that, again, we're just being very flexible and doing a lot of work behind the scenes to make that a reality.
That sounds awesome. Where's Top Golf at this point?
Top Golf is like everything else. They shut down all their businesses and they're slowly reopening. Our future here at the Horseshoe is to develop the property between M&T Stadium and the Horseshoe. That's called Warner Street. It's about 2 blocks. And over the years, our casino has actually purchased most of those 2 blocks. So we are, Top Golf would be on one of those parcels. We're looking at a collaboration with the Paramount Theater, which will be a brand new theater venue down the street. It would be the premier concert place in all of Baltimore. So some exciting news coming very soon on that investment. But that is our future. I think if we've been here 6 years, the next 6 years will be to build out the area around us to create an even more attractive, more reasons for people to come down to Baltimore.
That's awesome. And they come to Horseshoe, they can stay at the Hilton, and then we're going to get on a plane. So, Randy, thank you. This has been very, 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 very great information. I'll ask that you join us at the end for some additional questions, but thank you so much for this information.
My pleasure.
Okay. Ricky Smith, Executive Director and CEO of Baltimore Washington International Thurgood Marshall Airport. How you doing, my friend?
Good morning, Sharon. I'm doing well. Good to see you.
Good to see you as well. And, like our other guests, I can't imagine, what happened for you. When you look at the travel industry, just over, I think global is about over $2.7 trillion or something, and the impact of that. So tell us from a CEO's perspective, an emergency was declared. What in the world went through your head at that point in time? And then, what did you put in place and how are you moving forward and recovering?
Well, we were actually involved in this pandemic issue before any declaration was made. Back in February, there was a flight from Las Vegas with a group of Chinese passengers that, according to the flight attendant, had demonstrated some symptoms that the CDC at that time was suggesting might be symptoms of the coronavirus. And so we had to figure out how we were going to handle that flight early on. Were we going to allow those passengers to be released into the terminal? There was no model out there because this was one of the first incidents at the airport. It turned out that the passengers were not, they did not have COVID-19, they did not have coronavirus. So we were able to take a couple of the passengers to a local treatment facility, but it worked out. But it caused us to activate our emergency response system in a manner that's more COVID related or disease control related. And so for us, that was an eye opener that that there are a lot of complicated decisions that have to be made if we're going to protect the public. You know, this disease, you know, it's an invisible disease and it travels through people, right? And
Right.
the airport is in the business of transporting people, and so it's critical that we make sure that we are transporting people in a very responsible manner. And so the industry itself has been focused on making sure that the facility itself is clean and that it's properly sanitized. We're working with the CDC. The industry is working with the industry, with the CDC, to see what measures we can put in place to help screen passengers as they come through the airport, temperature scanning and that kind of stuff. The airline industry has already put measures in place to ensure that passengers are boarding the plane in a safe manner. And all of that is important because what's going to affect us in the long run is customer confidence. You know, are people comfortable flying? Are they comfortable coming into an airport and then boarding an airplane without being at risk of contracting the disease? You know, our traffic back in March bottomed out at about 97% down. I mean, just imagine losing 97% of your traffic, and we are a volume business.
Mm-hmm.
And so to lose 97% of our traffic, that caused us to close about 80% of our food and retail operators. Many of those are small and minority-owned local companies. We had to close our 2 long-term surface lots because our parking program, parking activity was down about 95% as well. We actually had to place restrictions on access to the terminal. Even today, you're only allowed to come into the terminal if you are a ticketed passenger or a badged employee. That restriction is still in place. And then we had to put a lot of measures in place to make sure that our employees, not just my employees, but employees in the airport, that they were all safe and that they were also taking steps to make sure our customers were safe. So if you go through the terminal now, for example, you'll see plexiglass systems throughout the terminal where there's customer-facing activity. You'll see on our floors social distancing markers to make sure that people are cognizant of how they're distancing themselves, physically distancing themselves from other passengers. You will see intense cleaning. As you can imagine, we have hundreds of thousands of touch points throughout the airport, everything from the railing or moving walkways to elevator buttons, to doorknobs on restrooms, what have you. We have thousands, hundreds of thousands of touch points. And so we are sanitizing those touch points throughout the day on a frequent basis. And then on evenings, we partnered with a company out of Montgomery County, a small company called Top Dog that specializes in applying this Clorox-based sanitizing system. And so every evening at the airport, they go throughout the terminal, including the air traffic control towers, our fire department, and they do a sanitizing process to make sure that the next day when passengers come in, they're coming into a terminal that is clean and fresh. Probably one of the most important efforts we engaged, besides protecting the public, I'll say, was informing the public. Again, we had to make sure that we managed public confidence.
Mm-hmm.
And so we engaged in a very aggressive media relations, social media campaign to make sure that the public always knew what was going on at the airport. Again, we wanted to maintain confidence. And then certainly not the least of any of our efforts was protecting our own employees. A good 60% of our employees today are teleworking. And that was partly because the governor put in measures, one, to protect state employees to make sure that they were not in harm's way. And so, you know, one of the bright spots that has come out of this is just how productive we can be in a telework environment. I must admit, I was not a huge fan of teleworking.
Okay.
I am now a huge fan of teleworking. So we've done a lot of things to get through it, and there's more to do.
That's outstanding. So had you had to retrain, I mean, given all those things that you've had to put in place, how did you handle retraining of sorts of your employees to make sure that, you know, your customer safety was first? How did you engage that way?
So I mean, we are in the airport business. You're always training, preparing for emergency responses,
Okay.
including those cases where it might involve some kind of a contaminated material. And so our employees are always trained on that. We do tabletops throughout the year. We have emergency simulated exercises every year. And so in that sense, we didn't have to do a lot of training for this particular exercise. It was just a matter of activating the plans that we already had in place. In terms of training our workforce in general, who still needed to be trained, we were able to fall back on a virtual training system that we have in place that allows e-learning to be implemented in a more widespread manner. And so our employees are still trained. I think we've put a heavy dosage of COVID-related training because we want our employees to be safe at home as well as in the workplace. And so we've been able to deliver that through our online training processes.
So how, when I think about your legacy, Ricky, has always been one of engaging minority businesses. You've always done an outstanding job there. Matter of fact,
Thank you.
and I didn't even think about this, the dress I have on, I bought in the airport. Because I come through there. I used to spend a lot of time in the airport before COVID, but coming through there, there was always, you made sure, even through the kiosk, methods, or just ensuring that there was a presence of minority businesses in the airport. And so, number one, I'd like to commend you on that.
Thank you.
But how can they recover? What's been the conversation about the recovery of the concessionaires?
So, our typical lease arrangements include a minimum annual guarantee, right? Well, when your traffic drops 97%, by the way, our traffic is now down about 50%. So we've seen significant recovery, still a long ways to go, but still 50% is not, 100%. And so when you have a minimum annual guarantee that you have to pay the airport, but the traffic's not there, the demand is not there to bring in the revenues, that's a ridiculous situation. And so one of the things we did early on, as a matter of fact, we kind of led the industry in this respect, in the way of giving our tenants rent relief. So we removed the minimum annual guarantees, and you simply pay us a percentage of your rent. So if your percentage of your revenue. So if your revenue's zero, then your rent to us is zero, right? If you make $100, then your rent to us is a percentage of that $100. That went a long way in helping a lot of them hang around. We were also very liberal in allowing them to close, right? Like I said, about 80% of our operators were able to close, and that was because we relaxed our lease requirements. No, it didn't make a lot of sense to have our small and local businesses in the airport when no traffic is there. It wasn't a good policy. And so we think that went a long way in helping them survive. We want them to be healthy when traffic returns, and we're already beginning to see many of them begin to come back, and that's because we weren't very restrictive in terms of enforcing our lease requirements.
Right. I noticed even with Clear and TSA that they put some technologies in place so that passengers can feel safe in terms of not touching things and things of that nature. I want to take a couple of questions right now, Ricky, if you don't mind. Sonia and.
Sure.
Thank you, Ricky. You spoke earlier about all of the different things operationally you all have put in place: plexiglass, social distance markers, sanitization of touch points. There's a specific question about, does the airport purchase PPE separately, or is it supplied through and by the state of Maryland? And how do you handle that from a procurement standpoint?
So early on, we were purchasing our PPEs through the Maryland Department of General Services, to some degree through the Maryland Department of Transportation. I mean, there was I think Randy alluded to this earlier, there was a mad rush on PPE, and it was very difficult to get, so the state wanted to be strategic about how we pursued and purchased those items. We are buying some PPE items directly from the airport itself. And we're handling that through our procurement officer and our procurement office. And, I can actually provide you that information offline, or I can provide that through Sharon's organization. But we are buying PPE items on an ongoing basis because we expect our efforts to mitigate the impact of this pandemic to go on for at least another year or so.
Okay, thank you. Can we have another question?
Yeah, Ricky, you just took a trip to get to the hotel where you are today. How was that? How was that trip? What kind of things did you have to go through, and how safe did you feel on the airlines?
So I felt pretty safe. I mean, one, I took personal responsibility for protecting myself, and so I had the face mask on. I had the face shield on. I had my gloves. I also had my sanitizer with me, and I fly Southwest Airlines all the time, and they've put in a very good process for protecting passengers. They keep the middle seat open, and the way they board the aircraft by groups of 10 is a very responsible way. So at no point did I feel exposed or unsafe. People are wearing the mask, and so for me it was an experience where I didn't realize, I should say, the risk that perhaps I imagined going in. It was actually a safe feeling experience.
Okay. And you're
But I
faring,
think our listeners will be very, very encouraged to hear that.
Yes.
yeah. And it sounds like you're faring well against other airports around the country.
So we prior to COVID, I mean, we were approaching another record-setting season. And even with that, we were ranked the 22nd busiest airport in the country. Since COVID hit, we're the 11th ranked airport in the country. And what that means is because we're doing so well in terms of traffic returning, we're doing better than most other airports in the country. And part of that is because BWI Marshall, although we have a sizable business market, we have more leisure travelers because of Southwest Airlines largely than most airports in the country, certainly the other airports in the region. And the leisure travel segment of the market is the traffic that is the segment that's returning, right? So it was just reported in June. June numbers are the latest numbers that are out. We've been the busiest airport in the region for the last 5, 6, 7 years. But our June numbers show that we had more passengers than Reagan National and Dulles combined. And that is unheard of. And that just speaks to just how strong the leisure demand is at BWI Marshall. I think it also speaks to the fact that people feel comfortable flying out of BWI Marshall Airport, and they feel comfortable flying with Southwest Airlines, and we think that will carry us through the day, and that we will see a pretty strong recovery. Although recovery will be a couple years out before we reach pre-COVID levels, but I think we will continue to have a stronger recovery than most of the industry.
Okay. My team is telling me I'm behind, but this is such a great conversation. What we're going to do, I'm going to actually do something a little different. We're going to segue. And, Southwest Airlines has been our official airline, as you know, Ricky, for quite some time.
Yes, good part.
Segue and to do a ticket giveaway. So if I can bring Shakira online. And so I'm running behind. So we're going to do this, and then we're going to bring back everybody on for some additional questions. So ladies and gentlemen, we're running a little bit behind, but if you hang in there with us, we will be right back. Ricky, you didn't have to go. It's fine. But that's
Gotta come back anyway, Ricky.
okay. Shakira,
Hey.
it just seemed like it's appropriate. The airline guys here, right? The airport guy, rather. Shakira, so thank you for being our. So I'll turn it over to you.
All right. Well, good morning, everybody. Unfortunately, I'm not allowed to just use the tickets because I kind of need a getaway. However, in honor of the fact that the Horseshoe has been open for 6 years, the the way that this whole thing works is everybody, when you logged in, was assigned a number, a participant number. And so our winner of the Southwest tickets is Jay Ward at dreammanagement.com. I don't have your first name, Jay Ward. And you're actually logged in as language manager. So you are the winner of our Southwest giveaway, which I always love. And I'm happy that I could facilitate this one. And oh, go ahead, Sharon.
No, I was telling you to go ahead. So go ahead.
Nope, that's it. I'm done.
No, hold on for just a second. So because you have to be present to win. So is that winner available?
Yes, they are, Jay Ward. You can unmute your microphone and accept your gift live. Go ahead and unmute your microphone. Jay Ward is in the chat saying, that's me. Yes, I'm here. Sorry, my mic doesn't work. So emphatic acceptance. Congratulations.
Okay.
Yay.
Thank you. Thank you, Shakira, for being our ticket giveaway person.
I think I may also be your Q&A person too. It looks like Randy may have had to have hopped off.
Okay.
So I will horseshoe questions on that end.
Okay, here's Randy.
Okay. I don't have to be, I'm out now.
That's okay. You can hang around. It's fine. Ricky, like he's paused. Any questions? I know we're running a little behind. We can take a couple of questions.
Yes, and this is to the entire panel. Anyone can answer this question. Many of the MBEs on the phone would like to know, how can they best position themselves as an organization to align and partner with larger organizations like yourself, given that we're in a pandemic? Any suggestions, advice, recommendations on how they best position themselves for business and working with you?
Who would like to take that first? Linda?
Sure. I don't see a big difference between now and before the pandemic. I mean, we still, we need to know about you, so we encourage you, and you'll see an email just like Randy and Ricky had on where you can provide us your information. We'll vet you, and then we will get you in front of the right stakeholders if the opportunities are there. So just continue to do what you've been doing to let us know who you are and what goods or services you believe you have that would benefit our organization.
I would agree with Linda. I would offer in addition to that is we're in this virtual environment, right? And so what's typical networking isn't something that we're experiencing right now. So that's going to cause you to have to be a little more creative, maybe a little more aggressive in terms of how you bring attention to yourself. So in sessions like this, ask questions, right? When you ask a question, the audience gets to hear your name, they get to hear the name of your company. So that gives you a chance to kind of do some marketing of your company and yourself in a virtual environment. But you're going to have to pivot your networking approach and figure out ways to take advantage of this virtual environment, because more and more organizations are having these virtual sessions than in the past.
Yeah, I would echo those sentiments, and it's just get aggressive, get out there, let us know who you are. And again, once you get in, certainly within Caesars Entertainment, your opportunities are exponential.
Okay,
I have to add that I would also say to make sure that you are engaging with the council, because one of the things that we did on our end was to make sure that we reached out to the council when we had needs. So if you make yourself aware and make sure that you are, like Ricky said, engaging in all of the webinars and all of the meetings that are had, so that you keep your name top of mind for us.
Okay, a question for the entire panel. Many of our minority businesses are very creative. They've also their businesses have changed and they're pivoting to new things. Are there any special services, products, or technologies that you need that you have not seen on the marketplace that they could probably look at developing and providing to you? New products, services, or technologies?
Well, I would offer, I mentioned during my presentation that we're sanitizing on a nightly basis. I mean, to the extent that there's a product out there that will allow us to have to go through a sanitation process less frequently, however, the product has more staying power, that will become a much more attractive product for a lot of people. Having to go through the process on a nightly basis is labor intensive, right? So if you have a product, or if you are aligned with someone that has a product that has more staying power, that will be a popular product.
Good.
I would just offer, you know, as I mentioned in my remarks, technology is rapidly changing for those providers that can dream up better ways to get to a cashless environment. That's where we're going.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing, Randy. It's the touchless, contactless. That's where it's all headed.
Okay, we can take a couple more questions.
Yes, there is a question. This is anyone on the panel. Many large organizations are in planning season right now. If you could share a few of your key initiatives for 2021, what's on the horizon, anything that our audience would be helpful to know as they look to partner with you.
Yeah, we're certainly in the midst of that right now, although it is tough to see beyond a couple months. You know, we don't know. The virus will dictate our business. So for us, it's all about flexibility and just setting up a business that we can pivot very quickly from. And I think the other thing I mentioned earlier in my remarks is sports betting should be a reality next year, and that's going to create a lot of opportunities.
Well, for us, the airport never closes. It cannot close. It serves a purpose more than just commercial passenger activity. And so those products, those services that we've procured in the past to keep the airport operating are the same products and services that we'll continue to purchase. And so that demand will still be there.
Yeah, and like the other two, we're going through our planning. It's going to be, you're not going to see a lot of new capital projects. You know, as Randy said, it's tough to forecast too far out, but you know, getting our properties back operational, back functional, and getting customers back in is the focus. But other than that, our key strategic priorities, you know, taking care of our customers, leading with our culture, those haven't changed. We're just a little more laser focused on the things that we really need to deliver.
Okay. Before we take the last question, I just want, and thank you, Shakira, in terms of encouraging people to stay engaged with the council, because of we're able to present information such as this. But we have some other things coming down the pipeline, such as our MBE Academy. We'll be launching our Mentor Protege program, which we call Lift as We Climb, as MBE to MBE. We're doing business makeover, and in terms of, you know, through this pandemic, through some of the issues associated with social injustice, we know that there are some businesses that were hurting before the pandemic, and with the onslaught of this pandemic, we know that there are businesses out there that are in a world of hurt, and we want to do some selections of some businesses that we can help kind of make over. So that's what that project's about. And then we have our newsletter that we keep abreast of information that we kind of dispense as well. And so I just wanted to make sure that from a council's perspective, if you don't know us, get to know us. We bring you this kind of programming and projects and programs as well. And so if we can take our last question, because I know these folks are the busiest folks on the planet, and I don't want to take any more advantage of, I know how busy their day is. And one more question.
During at the beginning of the pandemic, many of you had to make quick buying decisions, and you may not have gone through your normal supplier diversity modes. Will you take an opportunity at this point to go back and review some of those contracts and break them up for minority businesses to be sure that they're getting a shot?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we were able to continue our, you know, practices regarding trying to reach out to minority businesses during the closure. We didn't have to move quickly. In fact, I think Shakira mentioned we tried to renegotiate some payment terms, but regarding our smaller and minority vendors, we were aggressive in getting everyone paid. So I think something we always look forward to as an opportunity.
So we have a standard throughout state government to pay our vendors within 28 days, and we've been able to stay with that. So I don't see that changing. In terms of breaking up contracts, I don't see anything new happening as a result of COVID. But the Lieutenant Governor led an effort about 3 years ago to reform state procurement, and one of the outcomes of that effort was a policy to break up or debungle some of these larger contracts. Many of those contracts are now being offered through our Small Business Reserve Program, which you can find through email and marketplace. So hopefully that'll suffice you, and you'll find more opportunity there.
Yeah, and I'll just conclude with, even though it was quick, we absolutely included diverse suppliers, and I'm very happy to say that our PE equipment has a diverse supplier, infrared thermometers, and thermal scanners. All three categories, new to Hilton, were sourced with a diverse portfolio.
Thank you. Thank you. And again, thank you guys for your time and effort. I'd like to, and one of the things we always ask our guests is, how do we continue the conversation? And Nicole, if you can bring up the slide of contacts, that would be great. This is information, and this is also available to you after this presentation, as well as we'll answer any outstanding questions. But this is the contact point of these very busy people who wanted to also help stay engaged. So if I could just wrap this up, I'd like to again to thank our sponsors for today, and to thank you, here's our sponsors, and to thank everyone for attending and for hanging in here with us, because we have quite a few people that have stayed on the line, and so we want to give you back the remainder of your morning. And I'm hoping that as we begin to turn the corner, that Ricky, Randy, and Linda, that we can still stay engaged and still continue the conversation, because what you're doing is awesome and incredible. I hope you're writing the book about the experience. And so and how you've been able to survive it. So thank you very, very much. Want to see past webinars? Go to that website you see in front of you, and we have the our series that's been posted on there that you can take a look at. Thank you so much, and have a good day.
Take care, Sharon. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.